First tonight, the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife have appeared in a court in New York 2 days after they were seized by American troops in a raid on Caracas, as the US continues to push on with one of the most controversial interventions in Latin America in decades. Mr. Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. In 2020, he was charged in absentia by the Southern District of New York over alleged drugs and weapons offenses. He's always maintained he has no links to drug trafficking and that the accusations are a pretext for regime change. Meanwhile, President Trump says if Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, doesn't do his bidding, she's going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Nicolas Maduro. Ms. Rodriguez has now invited Donald Trump to collaborate. In a conciliatory message released after she hosted her first cabinet meeting, Ms. Rodriguez said she sought balanced, respectful relations with Washington. Mr. Trump has again insisted the US is now totally and absolutely in charge of Venezuela.
Next 2 weeks, what do you need from Delcy Rodriguez? You've threatened Delcy.
Total access. We need total access. We need access to the oil and to other things in their country that allow us to rebuild their country.
What other things?
A lot of things. Roads that aren't built, bridges that are falling down. Yeah, bridges that are falling down, nobody can go anywhere. A lot of Cubans were killed yesterday, you know that. A lot of Cubans were killed. The bodyguards, no, they're looking, but there was a lot of death on the other side. No death on our side, but there was a lot of death on the other side, unfortunately. But a lot of Cubans were killed yesterday, trying to protect him.
President Trump, well, for his assessment of the US action in Venezuela. I'm joined now on the line from Washington by Ambassador Earl Anthony Wayne, who served as a US diplomat from 1975 to 2015, during which he was the US ambassador to several countries in Latin America. He was also Assistant Secretary of State under 3 US Secretaries of State. Ambassador Wayne, thank you very much indeed for joining us. So Mr. Maduro in handcuffs, arraigned before a court in New York on charges of running an alleged drug trafficking network and flooding the US with narcotics. How do you reflect on this moment?
Well, I think the charges are charges that date back several years and have been renewed recently. It was clearly President Trump's effort to, not his first choice, but I think the way he came to see that he needed to run this situation to take Maduro out, to bring him to the United States and charge him. And I think it's still unclear exactly how he's planning to run the rest of this operation as it unfolds. I mean, we'll see what happens to Mr. Maduro when he appears before a U.S. court and faces the charges, several charges that have existed for a number of years, or they were sealed, and they've been updated recently. But we still have the question of his vice president, who is running this situation, heading the government in Venezuela. We have the chaos that's going on there, I think, in the broader areas, including in the oil area. And all of us have many questions as to exactly how this is going to unfold.
Indeed, and I'm going to come to that issue of his Mr. Maduro's deputy, who's now essentially the interim leader of Venezuela. But of course, Mr. Maduro, as we saw there, is gone, but his government has not. And so they still have all the repressive forces intact and all the officials in position in Venezuela. So would it be fair to say that a lot has changed, but at the same time, not a lot has changed?
I think that's a good description of the situation. The reality of power, more broadly described, has shifted immensely. And so the United States has a lot of influence in Venezuela. but it is not there actually controlling what's happening in the capital, in other parts of the country. And we're going to have to see how this unfolds as things go forward. The new government of Venezuela, I think, is trying to signal that it would like to discuss how this goes forward, but it's not yet clear. The United States sent in a military force to take out Mr. Maduro and his spouse, but they've withdrawn from the country. There are many U.S. forces surrounding Venezuela from the sea and available by air, but they are not currently active.
And I mean, you are, of course, Ambassador Wayne, a former diplomat for many years. You worked in Latin America and in other parts of the world for the U.S. government. Are you surprised that Mr. Trump has decided to reassert American strength on the world stage?
Well, I think we have to admit that it is a big surprise if you look at it historically. He's been moving in this direction for a number of weeks. I think that they had to practice this operation for going in and arresting him and taking he and Mrs. Maduro out of the country. So that was happening secretly. The military and the Homeland Security were practicing that. You can see pictures of it there. But the actual decision to move ahead just took place recently. And I think all these options were prepared, and the president then made a decision to move ahead and do this. Now, exactly what happens going forward is far from clear. I think clearly they're trying to have a dialogue with the new government and to see if they can have a way to take this forward with very little violence. But we'll have to see. We'll just have to see what happens. It's not at all clear. There is another president who was elected. We assert in the elections that took place in 2024. He's living in Spain. There is one of his running mates who has been leading the campaign against President Maduro, who has recently fled the country and is now outside of Venezuela. We'll have to see what role those individuals play moving forward.
And I'm going to come to that, hopefully, if we have enough time. But I mean, are you surprised, Ambassador Wayne, perhaps even stunned, as many have been, including supporters of President Trump, that he's suddenly doing everything that he vowed not to do at the start of his second term, that he would stop wars, not start them, and now there seems to be an entirely new approach to U.S. foreign policy, with America basically doing what it wants?
It does seem a surprise that he has shifted tone. It's not necessarily a surprise from the basic orientation that the president has shown before, but his decision to actually move ahead and to act as boldly as he had in arresting the president and his wife, taking them out to the United States. The big decisions now are how the United States is going to exert its influence going forward. Will there be a lot more violence in trying to do that? We don't know yet. Will they be able to work out a satisfactory position for moving forward toward a transition of power? There was an election held last year in which we believe and have asserted that Maduro lost and was replaced by the gentleman who was running against him. The woman who was associated with that just received the Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts to bring about a democratic government in Venezuela. She's out of the country. All of that it's unclear right now how we're going to move in that direction.
And how much does the idea that Washington essentially invaded and is going to occupy and rebuild Venezuela harken back to Vietnam, Iraq, and even Afghanistan, where you served as a U.S. diplomat, experiences that were very unpleasant for the United States?
You're exactly right, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions raised about this in Washington. The further we move along, I think the Democrats are going to be quite clear in raising those kind of questions. Not the questions that Maduro was a suitable president or was a good president, but the questions as to our intervention and how we're going to bring about a democratic transition in Venezuela and return a democratic government to power in Venezuela. That's going to be very complicated. And it was clear that the U.S. administration was still working this through and still has a lot of work to do to decide how to move forward in this situation. And I think we're going to see more of that as we go ahead, but there will be a number of questions, serious questions about it, because President Trump did not have full and enthusiastic support for everybody in this way of moving forward.
And is it your sense that America has violated international law?
Well, I'm going to leave it to the lawyers to say that. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about this path that the president has taken, and that people will be raising questions. Not that Mr. Maduro was a wonderful leader or hadn't violated law or hadn't even lost the election in 2024 and had thrown the apparent victor of that election out of the country, who's now in Spain, and then his ally fled the country and received the Nobel Peace Prize just recently. So there's not a question that this is a democratic leader. The question is, how did we go about bringing this transition to the point, and where do we move forward from this? Right now, we still have a lot of military power centered in Venezuela, headed by the defense minister, the interior minister, and others who are still in positions of power. And I don't think we want to see a vigorous battle, let's say, for control of Venezuela. So how this unfolds in the days and weeks ahead is going to be essential, and will have a lot of attention.
And in that regard, Ambassador, let me turn to what you brought up earlier and what you make of the fact that Mr. Trump appears to have talked to the deputy president in Caracas, who was part of this government that you say is illegitimate, but doesn't appear to have talked to the opposition and to people like Maria Corina Machado.
I think that's one of the challenges of this situation, because previously a great deal of the U.S. support was for the opposition leaders, including the gentleman who ran against Maduro and apparently won a large majority in that election. The woman that you just referred to, who's been leading the opposition and who just went out and received the Nobel Peace Prize and gotten praise from many, many, many corners of the world, including large chunks of the United States. How this all sorts through, how this works with a government that still holds the power in Venezuela, it's yet to be clear what's going to happen here. And either what the United States is going to do, what's going to happen in Venezuela, what the opposition in Venezuela and the opposition living outside of Venezuela is going to do, all is going to have to unfold in the days ahead.
Ambassador, I want to thank you very much indeed for your insights. Ambassador Earl Anthony Wayne served as a U.S. diplomat from 1975 to 2015, during which he was the U.S. ambassador to several countries in Latin America. He was also Assistant Secretary of State under 3 U.S. Secretaries of State, and he was talking to me on the line from Washington. Thank you very much indeed.